put the agenda notes in the SIG release, right? So I'll put it in the chat.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
I'll put it here. This is the chat in the Zoom chat.
okay.
Okay,
So this is the Nefio SIG release meeting for April 24th, 2023. All right. Well, someone put, so there's a lot of agenda items now. Those are suggested here. Okay. Well, go ahead, Rado, since you have the agenda items.
Yeah, all right, cool. Let me just try to maybe share this so it will be clearer what we're talking about. All right, is this visible?
Yes.
All right, cool. So let me jump straight to the second point. So end-to-end testbed. There is a pull request quite large that we worked on with Vish and Ravind last week. So at current status, we have a job that spins up the instance in our Google Cloud account and install it's an Ubuntu instance, and it spins up there using Ansible. So the instance is created using short script in Terraform, and then Ansible is being used to provision micro K8s just as a proof of concept to show that it works. I've tested this in my lab, so seems to be working fine. Once we have this one merged, then whatever happens inside this instance or whatever size of this instance we need, that's easily changed with just switching the playbook maybe for this one that we have from one summit, or something specific that we're gonna need. We started a bit of working with Fish on this one. So that's practically done to this extent that we have like a good base to start with end-to-end environment, or generally every job that will need a running separate VM to do something on it. I'm not really sure what kind of tests and what will be the course of them, but for now, this is just like an ephemeral instance. So after all scripts has run in it, it gets teared down. So the only outcome of it, you got basically logs in your prow. But in case we need these instances to live more than the job that spins them up does, this is also doable. It can be a separate job. For example, if you want to spin an instance that will be used, let's say for a week, and we're gonna do some incremental tests and just observe results there or something. I'm not really sure what's gonna be needed, but that's also possible. So the whole infrastructure that it's gonna create, that's why I've decided on using Terraform, because it creates the Terraform state files that in this case, in a PR, they are just gone after the instance is gone. But if we need long living instances, those are gonna be stored in remote bucket in a Google Cloud. So in case, then if we want to remove them and they will, for example, have like a VPC networking or something, some other entities created around them, it will be all in this status files. So we don't leave any mess, which of course also costs money, right? So it will rule out the situation that, for example, we got some networking hanging or something that will either collide with tests or just it will just cost money without doing anything. So that's done. As for code scanning and checking, I've added add license tool, which for now just checks if which files don't have a license header in them. Later on, I guess we can make this enforcing to just fail the job if somebody commits the file that doesn't have the notification about the license and copyright and so on. I've got a separate image with scan code toolkit, also which can be used for license auditing and generally code auditing when it comes to copyright and stuff like this. This seems to be like a widely used solution. So it is in separate image in our Docker Hub, and just had to plug it into Pro. I've done some tests with it in lab. You can also create visualizations out of it, outcomes to see, the graphs of, what kind of licensing you have in your project and so on. The next thing I wanted to talk about, all right, the Go tests image. I've added Bash to it. Seems like not a big difference in size and so on. And for some compatibility issues, I guess it's better to have a slightly bigger image than actually fall into some problems with jobs. Many scripts just expect to have Bash as a shell, and I guess it's no point with, so to speak, fighting with it. So that's updated. I found also a nifty project called Lichen, which scans the Go binary for the libraries that it's using, and shows what kind of licenses they are using. So it's pretty cool solution because it will actually show only the things that are linked to in this binary, and it will be also plugged in a ProJob to see. You can also specify with a config file which licenses are forbidden or which are okay, and it displays the whole list of licenses of libraries linked to your resulting binary. For an image build and upload, I have this PR in a queue. For now, as we were talking last meeting, we'll try to build image every PR, and also I got a separate pipeline that will build images based on tags. So we have a release method to actually build an image based on a created tag. So that's also done. Just need some more testing, and can be pushed. And as for PRs, I've put few that will need review and LGTM. So in case anyone feels like having time for some reviewing fun, I'd be really grateful to have a look at those. And yeah, that's basically it from my side. Got a bit external work, so to speak. So seems like it won't all finish in time of this current sprint. So a few of these tasks will have to be carried over to next sprint. And yeah, that's all from my side. Thanks.
So you're currently creating the VM and setups dynamically. How long would that take?
Around 10 minutes.
About 10 minutes. Okay. And then the idea is you're running microkdata, so the idea is to run one workload instance per each cluster. So UPF, SMF would be running.
It's really configurable. So for starters, what I want to start is this Ansible playbook that installs microkdata in Ubuntu instance is something that I use very often in other projects. So it's tried and tested, and I knew that it's gonna work. I'm not gonna run into other problems that I will have to debug. So I just plug it there as a proof of concept. But
yeah, actually, even I did it. I was using microkdata when I was running my PLC. So that's an easy one to do instead of QA.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just fire and forget kind of thing. Yeah. So generally, what then will happen is we can just change which playbook the Terraform will run. So we can just create basically anything. Vish mentioned for node cluster based on kind, right? Something like that. So I mean, it will just need a bigger board.
I never done multiple VMs. Are VMs naturally connected? Is this something you can set?
Well, they are not, but the networking can be said that we can have set like 4 VMs with their
And for VMs within the cloud, I guess traffic is not charged.
Yeah, if you well, I don't know how it's in Google Cloud. I'm more AWS.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Guy, but I would assume in the same zone, you don't pay for the traffic between VMs in their private networking. That would probably be a logical thing, but I'm not 100% on it.
Okay.
Reda, I wanted to first say thanks for the summary. And then I wanted to request you, those PRs, do you also please mind putting them in Slack? Otherwise, I can put it, but if you put it, that would be great as well. So that people can take a look and review them. Those PRs.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'll make sure we'll also take a look at that today, those PRs. I remember I reviewed one of your PRs on Friday, but I'll make sure I'll review the rest of them today.
All right. So as a general course of action, if I have some PRs that needs to be looked on, should I spam them in SIG release and in general chats?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Please, like SIG release.
So supposedly all of us should actually look at the list of PRs every day.
Yeah,
part of our responsibility. But then if it's something that needs urgent attention, probably want to ping us on Slack.
Yeah, it's please ping on Slack. That will give extra attention, like Stephen said.
All right, cool. I'll ping them after the call.
So just to understand, I know Wim has his hands raised. This end-to-end test bed, right? So is it gonna set up multiple clusters on which we can install workloads?
I mean,
I just missed that point.
That depends really on what you want to do with it. So the whole mechanism to actually provision the VM or multiple VMs, if you want, from the prod job, that's already done, right? Okay. And then what happens in VM is just a matter of which Ansible playbook you will plug into this job. So, for example, in One Summit repo, you got some Ansible provisioning playbook, so you can add it as an additional repo that's getting checkout during the job run, and then you will just run the playbook from there. So the whole, so to speak, like a framework to run your Ansible playbook, whichever you want, it's in this PR.
Okay, awesome. Thanks a lot, Reda. Wim?
Yeah, I was just looking at the PR itself. So we are using micro case here, right? Is there a reason for it that we switched?
That's just a proof of concept. So that's the playbook. I know that it works. So I just wanted to have it to test in infrastructure that it spins up the instance, that it will all work. And then we can switch it to whatever, like the playbook from One Summit or something.
Okay, no, because for us, so the biggest dependency we have is probably Multus, right? As far as I see, and
but that's Node in installations though. So micro-KDS works too if you install that.
Okay, yeah, that was my question. Yeah, whether anyone had experience with that?
Yeah, I have. So when I ran my POC, it was actually on a micro-KDS.
It's not this micro-KDS. It's not really like a hard dependency in this PR. It's rather to show that it works. It can be anything. You can switch it up for kind of whatever.
Yeah, it's just if you use Ubuntu, it comes kind of, you can do a snap command, it comes up, and then you can create. So it's a little easier than doing all this kubeadmin.
Yeah, exactly. And with kubeadmin, it has a slightly steeper learning curve, and it is prone to some errors. So with this one, you can really get start fast. Just if you want to do like a, the kubectl, get pods or whatever, get namespaces to see that, you got really your Kubernetes up and running, right? But then later, what we want to do with it, it's not really a hard dependency. It was just for a test.
But did we agree on what we are going to use? Is it kite or is it micro-K8s or?
That I have no idea. I wasn't given any information.
So it seems like moving to this multi-VM based thing is setting up a actual non-kind architecture. Obviously, if you use kind, you can just put in one VM, and then you don't have to worry about the inter-cluster networking. But then moving, I would imagine moving to that. I guess Vish is the one that should answer. But then I would imagine when you're moving to a more multi-VM setup, is that this is more real, and then it would not be using kind, obviously, when you do this. I mean, which can correct me.
Yeah, I mean, at least me, I've always been a proponent of both. One from being a developer friendly, having all kind clusters on a VM, wherein somebody can go off, run their test, because today folks have the ability to go request a VM on a cloud with beefy VM and are able to do any debugging on that using kind clusters. And then to keep our testing realistic, we definitely want to mimic the actual clusters, like, using kubeadmin or like at some point of time, either OpenShift or from some other distro. At least for us, a Kubernetes cluster, we want to be able to do that. I see them coexisting, at least that is my personal opinion, because both of them have value.
Yeah, sure. No, I'm just wondering whether we have discussed this before.
Yeah, at least for last week when we thought we were trying to bring up the clusters on a VM was going to be tough, but then I was able to go through, bring up a kubeadmin VM. I was able to install using kubeadmin, a cluster, 4 clusters. I was able to replicate all the steps that we did for the workshop, except for the one where I opened the issue about cluster context using a hard-coded interface. So it seems like at least it brought out another use case, which means we also need other functionality in place, like going and querying the cluster and making sure you pick the right interface and doing all that stuff will become part of the scenario testing. The answer is yes to both, not just one.
So we'll have to do both. Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's both basically. Yeah. Great.
So definitely, I know Tal has his hands raised. Yes, I agree with Vish. We need both, and then we need to understand we have 2 more sprints to accomplish everything. And the last sprint, the last week is to get the release out of the door. So essentially, we have 4 weeks. While we want to have both, I think it's good to, in my view, we need to prioritize one over the other, unless we have resources to do both in parallel. If you have resources to do both in parallel, it's absolutely fine. Otherwise, I would suggest let's get done with what we had set up in the in the workshop first, and then work on this. Otherwise, if you have both resources, let's continue in both.
Your approach is what I had in mind when I was discussing with Stephen early last week too. So idea is to keep what we have, which is working, and then incrementally make some changes. Sorry, Tal.
Yeah, the only ask for FYI, the only ask I had was obviously by sprint 3 it should be ready. So whatever.
Yes, but this is
and if you see what Rado has proved out is, Rado has proved out that he has a pro job that can bring up a VM, and after he brought up a VM, he's able to execute commands within that VM to bring up some infrastructure like a Kubernetes. So that is what I think the point to be taken is, we are able to do that. And now you need to replace that with one, as a first step, what we had for the workshop, which will be the kind clusters in the VM. And second, if there was already scripts to bring up on this multiple VMs, that should be plugged in. So that's the way I think it seems, which Rado has screwed out at this point of time.
I mean, Tal's hands been up, but then
Sorry,
one thing
Tal.
that I've definitely asked everyone is, so if you move to this, make sure that the inter-cluster networking is easily automatable when you do it.
Yeah, let's hear from Tal. Yeah, like you said.
Go ahead, Tal.
Thanks, guys. So A very high priority, I think, is the ability to have developers run the test locally. If we easily if we can't do that, then it's just going to be much harder to develop, right? Because you
That's
have to
one.
push, you have to due to the infrastructure. I'm very worried about moving to VMs. The networking between VMs is very complex, right? If it's on cloud, if it's running locally, there are so many different options. Different products work very, very differently. You have to handle ingress. There's, yeah, it's useful for end-to-end testing, but then, you know, we will test on actual clouds, of course, but for integration testing, right? But for developer testing, the advantage of kind is enormous. And I'll point out, it's not just having multiple clusters running, also for Multis, right? This is something that I've investigated because the kind clusters are based on either Docker or a Podman network. You can very easily do Multis extra networks, configure them that would work between the kind clusters, right? So vastly simplifying, you know, our deployment, because when we test things, we want to test Nefia. We're not testing cloud, right? So I think having a very simple test platform is a huge advantage for us. So I even think we can do it even simpler than what we have now. So rather than actually taking what we have now and evolving it to something more complex, I would like to evolve it into something more straightforward. But yeah, I'm worried that we're making things, in the attempt to make things more realistic, we're actually making things very harder for core developers.
Is there a specific thing that you are saying is adding complexity? Because I'm agreeing with you. Having on a single VM is what we need. So I
even think not even a single VM. I think why not just run it on your local machine? Why even need a VM? But
sure, you can do that. You can do that. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm just putting my worry here because we're saying we want to support both, but these are two very different kinds of tests for different purposes. So
correct.
Yeah.
For developer testing, you can do it on your own machine, or I mean, I'm a guy. I'm a VM guy. I like to keep things separate, and I put it on a VM. It makes it easy for me because on my Mac I can bring up a VM and do that.
Sure.
So yeah,
sure.
but there are folks who wants to just do it on their thing, on their box. It's great because I also deployed the micro K8s on my MacBook, and it was like, yeah, fine, it works. So yes, it's a preference, I guess. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Tal, just one point before I give the floor to Dennis. Yeah. I think we are all in agreement all here. I think we will prioritize our existing setup over multi-VM. And I agree with you, multi-VM setup, networking, if it all requires the switch configurations, setting up the gRPC tunnel between, that's also needed at this point of time, which we did not do at this point, which we didn't do for the workshop, in addition to all the communication that is needed for the 5G NF functions. So point well taken. I think we're all in agreement here. I think our priority is to get the kind one going first, and then we will, if the time permits, we'll continue working on the multi-VM stuff. So I think we all agree to that spirit. Dennis, I think he had his hand raised.
Yeah,
Ben.
I have just a couple of things. So like for testing, let's say when I like work on 3.5G CUPF, right? I use kind clusters like somewhere sitting. I just need API, IP address, whatever. So it's easy to test. And well, I don't need anything anywhere, right? So like, just prepare virtual machine and it works. But what actually I wanted to ask more is when we are talking about like UPF, right? UPF requires a little bit more than just a Kubernetes. Like it requires real-time kernel, some kernel arguments, huge pages, SRIV for Multus and all those things. And I think that it's not a priority. It will be probably later, like much later. But like, do we have any just a high-level idea how those things will be provisioned?
On hardware dependencies, there's no way we can go with VMs, and SRIV doesn't even work on VMs. So we need to move into our own testbed by then. So there's there's no discussions on anyone's like donating money to get those things in place. Very early on for 6.3, we started using resources directly from RF Edge, But then it seems like there's some resource contentions, getting their resources also took forever. So the thing is, post R1, hopefully we get more funding from the outside and be able to run our own lab. Otherwise, I don't see how we will be able to do any of the hardware resource things directly, even if we're using VMs.
Okay, well, like it's kind of, I'm not sure, like VMs, we are going to run them in Google Cloud, and it seems that there are some limitation, but let's say in VMware, we have hypervisor which attaches virtual functions to virtual machines, and then we attach them to containers, and that is possible. This is how we run Tanzu and our workloads there.
Yeah, I'm not sure if other, I mean, forget about just Google. So in general, any cloud providers would allow you to do isolated CPUs, huge pages, SRIOV, and things like that directly on the VM resources. I'm not sure, but then if you know, that'd be great. That would be something to explore.
You need to be an admin for the account, because in the past on the IBM cloud, I have actually done that, installing OpenStack.
Isn't that like more bare metals on IBM's? Because the company they bought layer or some whatever layer, soft layer, it was mainly doing bare metals.
Yes,
bare metal cloud. So
like end users like of Nephi will be running it high performance workload on bare metal for sure, for SMF, IMF, and maybe some other use cases which don't require some hardware dependencies. So they will be running in virtual machines, no issues. But there will be edge use cases where bare metal is the requirement. It just 5 cents, but I think it's for later.
Yeah, Dennis, and UPF is one of the other extreme cases when you support the RAN cases, right?
RAN cases are even more difficult. Say, I talked to our engineer, and when you have more than like thousands of like virtual hosts, right? Like, because RAN is kind of, you can expect easy 10,000 of sites or something like this. Of course, we're not talking about this, but Kubernetes became chatty. So it just kind of amount of API calls, it exponentially grows, and it became a problem at some point.
Yeah, that's also interesting take. But I was coming more from a RAN hardware perspective, like it may require the RTOS kernel, then it may require accelerators in addition to just SRIOV. So there'll be a few more complications. And in general, I think overall the hardware dependency, special hardware dependency of a specific workload is something we need to tackle in Nephew. I think that's one of the things. Also, Tal was also mentioning about some of the shift right stuff, if I understand his comments correctly. So I think that is something we need to tackle as a whole. The special hardware requirement and special kernel requirement, etc. Tal, do you want to add anything to that?
No, it's a good summary for now. I wouldn't call it shift right, but yeah, it's a good summary.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Vish, do you want to go first, or do you want me to do the status first?
Yeah, go ahead. Vish, do you want to run your agenda items, or do you want?
Yeah, it'll be real quick, basically. Okay. So one, like I mentioned earlier, I was talking to Stephen Wong last week, and we were thinking about trying it out on a VM, bringing up actual Kubernetes cluster using kubeadmin. I wasn't really hopeful back then, but the good thing with the GCP VMs are they can talk to each other on a private network. So I was able to bring up the kubeadmin cluster, install Multus, and also carry out all the exercises that we did in the workshop with just the UPF. And it seemed to work. So just wanted to share that as a FYI here. that seems to be one of the things that was like pleasantly surprised by, initially. I didn't expect it to go smoothly. I was thinking that there'll be too many things that I had to go back to GCP and ask, or call their support or something like that. But that was good. I also
Yeah, I
noticed
mean,
that,
because that was just bringing up UPF. So, but the moment you start doing network connectivities, the difference will be really big.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Maybe other things are still hidden. Yeah. And second thing, in general, since Rado is here, I just wanted to make a request that the automatic approve that comes from one of the PR authors be removed, so that it doesn't get merged easily. So if that is something, Rado, if you're able to look into, it'll be great. Seems like anybody who is author of a PR, then
if-
approval
if-
is already.
No, if the author of the PR and if that author is in the owner's file.
Yes, you have to be in an owner's file as an owner, not
To get an automatic approve.
Yes.
Yes, you can turn this off, but by it seems logical that if you're an owner of the repo and you're pushing something there, you automatically approve this being pushed there. Right? Then it just needs somebody to say, or multiple people to say, looks good to me, and then it gets merged. Right?
So Radu, what's happening is right now, wishes. I was going to raise a ticket on this anyway. I'll raise a ticket on this one. We can just talk as well.
Mhm.
So if any of the four, I would call them core committers, John, Wim, Stephen, and Tal. If they push a PR, obviously there is one approval right there, and then in any of us, say, go and review the code, and let's say myself or Wish will go, and then it looks good to us, and then we'll just put LGTM, then automatically it gets merged. So essentially, with one review, we are merging the code. That's what we were trying to avoid. So it would be great to turn off that, because even though
Sure.
the core committers are there, I mean, they may want other core committers to take a look at it as well, right? So so it would be great to turn off that feature.
Please create the issue against SIG release, and
Yes.
I can turn this off. You want this
Yes, I'll do that.
turned off for particular repositories or for all of them?
So I think as a whole, let's make it as a general policy.
All right, cool.
Unless that's my intention. Unless Tal, Stephen, I mean, you are the core committers, and Wim is also here as to core committer. Do you have any objections to that?
I agree entirely.
No. We should not have any special privilege.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Yeah.
All right, cool. Please do the issue against SIG release.
Our code is equally terrible as everyone else.
Cool. So I will raise a ticket, Adam, and then probably you can make it a sprint 3 item. Yeah.
All right.
Go ahead, Lala. All yours.
Yeah, thank you. Our status, I mean, we knew our lofty goal was to start integration testing from tomorrow, but we knew it's going to be a very lofty goal for all of us. But in each one of, I will just give a brief update of the each SIG, each subgroup in SIG automation, and then this one. I think in the SIG, in the packaging group, Simon was able to push some PRs regarding the KPT dependency management, and John was also able to make some progress there. Obviously, not everything is merged and ready for the config injection feature, but we have made some progress there. That is needed for the before the fan out, right? We wanted to inject the cluster context to the packages, so that is work in progress. John is very confident that that will be completed this sprint. This sprint means the upcoming sprint starting tomorrow, sprint 3. That is that. And in the specialization, Wim's team made a very good progress in terms of creating libraries, and then the SDK runtime. And those two are under review at this point of time. So those are fundamental building blocks for the functions themselves, such as interface functions and add functions. Wim and team has used this underlying software infrastructure in the functions and they're tested on their systems. They have a very high level of confidence that things are working as they're intended. But however, for the whole process to go through, we need to first review these fundamental software artifacts, that is the function runtime and the libraries. That's some of the review cycle that needs to be merged, after which the functions that leverage them could be merged as well. So I think, according to me, those functionalities may I will complete maybe in the first half of next sprint, or maybe three-fourths of next sprint, starting tomorrow. And workload, as I understand, Tal and Stephen, correct me, I think there's a lot of progress being done in the UPF and SMF controllers as well as the operators. As far as other 5G network functions are concerned, we are hoping that the Orange will directly contribute to it in NFIO. At this point of time, as I understand, there are no technical limitations. It's more about, and also they're inclined to do that, but they are waiting for the CLA approval in their legal team so that they can start contributing to our repo directly. So I think probably when I don't know whether Eric is with us today. He's not. Probably we can touch base with him maybe tomorrow in the other call and see where we are at that point of time. So on the SIG release test infra side, obviously Vish and Rada has given us a good update. I think we are making progress there in the test infra side as well. I think that is where we stand. Like I said, we have 2 more sprints. In my view, at the end of next sprint, which is sprint 3, if we have all the artifacts ready, in the sense that at least not finalized, at least we have the operator ready, and the workload side of the operator ready, and the 3 main network functions ready, and then we have the controllers for network functions. I mean, and on the port side, if we get a build with our intended code, and on the package specialization side, if we have all the network all the functions, the pipelining specialization code ready, probably we should start integration testing in sprint 4, because that's the latest we can push, because we'll find issues, we'll find other things, and then we'll need time to do fine tuning and other development. So that is what I feel. I think probably this sprint is very crucial for us to get our artifacts together. And then we had to touch base with Victor on the installer stuff. Hopefully he'll be back by this week. I hope he's back. We need to touch base on the installer stuff. And there is one other dependency that we spoke in the previous meeting, is the IPAM. So there are 2 things, right? IPAM controller and IPAM the backend. IPAM controller, Vim is confident that probably we can get that in, but the IPAM backend code, since it's a larger code base, we may not have enough time to push everything this sprint. That may even, Stephen, we were also thinking, I think we may have to create a separate repo for IPAM backend. It may not belong to, because it's the backend code for the IPAM system. So maybe that may even go to a separate repo under NFIO. So for the time being, we were thinking, we'll just use it as, we'll just consume it. We'll just consume that image rather than, and then use that for our testing purposes, for our installer purposes, and then in parallel, make PRs to push it into NFIO IPAM backend. So that's the overall summary. Sorry for the monologue.
Yeah, I mean, we were thinking that IPAM was more like an external controller we can leverage. Obviously, we're not saying blocking it from getting into NFIO, but then for now, it is not something that is too important.
So the main thing is this sprint is a very crucial thing for us to get our thing
Yeah,
ready, and
yeah,
probably we
yeah,
should start
yeah.
the
Well,
integration testing. Sprint
As
4.
we get into May, all the sprints are critical.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
mhm. Yeah.
But sprint 4 still have, we can continue developing, bug fixing, implementing features and stuff. But at least if we can start integration testing, that would be great.
Yeah, we should do some integration on this coming sprint for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, at least between specializations and operators, we should be able to just drive and see the operators responding, making sure that the APIs are the CLDs are correct. The CLs
Are
are
there any
correct.
tests in mind already? Because that's one thing we were discussing too, that some of you have. Because the only thing that I can think about currently at this point of time for the test could be, yeah, I mean, there are packages deployed, go approve a package and then push it and actually see that it is running successfully in the cluster. Other than that, is there anything else that is being planned?
For what, sprint 3?
Integration testing.
End-to-end call.
End-to-end would be there. I mean, forget about the call. End-to-end to just go from the topology controllers all the way down to creating the entire topology of network functions. Even if we cannot make a call, would be still some time away, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. So ideally, wish let's say end of sprint 4, like Stephen said, I mean, everything is. So we provide the intent with the network enough topology, and then everything is realized, everything is deployed, and then we have at least one test where SMF and UPF can ping. That's how I think we stated our iterative goals as that. And then at least the ping should work. And then obviously we want the call to work as well. For the call to work, we need to, that's where we need to, I think we need to have that setup of what Orange demonstrated.
Yeah, we need all the packages basically.
Yeah, you need all the packages, and also not only that, also employing UV ransom, other things. That is that goes on the UPF, right?
That's also a package.
That's also a package. Got it. Yeah, got it. Okay, cool. Yeah, we need that one. So those are two end goals, Vish. I mean, one end goal, absolute bare minimum, is everything gets deployed. We can ping. And
in fact, I think the Orange setup, UE ransom itself runs in the same cluster.
In the same, yes,
they're completely bypassing any networking complications.
Exactly.
Out of that.
I mean,
it's a lot of work for them to get there already, but then for us, it's like a step further, a step above that even.
Yeah, because our controllers and control plane and the UPFs running in a separate cluster. So
yeah.
All right. So any questions there? Anybody else? Or anybody else? Any advice? Any suggestions? How we want to go about things in the next 2 sprints?
I want to go back a bit to answer Tao's question about the building process. So what I have now is I'm using Kaneko to build it. It's more or less the same thing as a builder here. So you just pass it Docker file and JSON with Docker credentials to Docker Hub credentials to after build to push it out. And that's it. It doesn't have any external dependencies like Docker or something to build the image. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. The reason why I prefer Builda after years of working with it is it could support Docker files, but it doesn't have to. You can run direct commands on containers. I just find it vastly easier to work with. Docker files are very antiquated at this point. I think the format is 10 years old. So I have a preference to use it. It's a very, very simple tool. It's a single binary, and it works very well. But yeah, I like the issue here. I assigned to me is the issue of building our container images. I still need to touch base with Linux Foundation on our credentials for our Docker Hub area that was created for us, so we can start uploading images there. But yeah, I mostly wanted this, in a way, is internal to SIG automation, but I wanted to make sure that there are no problems with it in SIG release here in terms of using builda to build images. I can't imagine it would matter, but just want to.
Seems like both projects are really similar, so I guess it can be like a drop-in replacement for what I've got. Let me test it, and I'll get back to you.
Okay, yeah, I'll
if it's a
appreciate your
simple switch.
feedback.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, that's it for me.
So on the Docker stuff, did Lucy get back to us at all, Stephen? What are the?
So John actually just did a quick check. It was on the private chat that we have. Sorry, that wasn't as public as it's supposed to be. So Lucy actually herself asking us to check, and then John just checked and said it's not fully done yet. So at least Docker hasn't made the transition yet. This still goes into community, not the version, which is the low tier, not the high tier. So yeah, we
Okay.
still have that problem.
Okay, so should that be handled by Docker now, or should that be handled
It
by?
should be, because according to Lucy is already approved. So Docker should be. I don't know whether he should be able to ping Docker to move faster or whatever. Probably not. But then they're supposed to be making that work, and then it would be natural for us, because it's the same Docker registry. They're not creating like a new registry, or they didn't ask us to create a new registry for that purpose. So they're
Okay,
supposed to
same
change.
thing
It
upgrade.
hasn't
They're
happened yet.
upgrading
Yeah,
the same.
the same Nephew. Yeah, the same one. Yeah. So yeah, I'm puzzled as well, but according to here. According to this, if you take a look at this, it still says that we are a community user. So yeah, I don't know. I never experienced in terms of like the open source approval project, so I don't know how long it would take for Docker to make that change.
Okay.
Also, I'm not sure how it looks like when it's done. So the only way actually is to check if we have the pull limits. So it's like 100 per 6 hours or something, if I remember correctly.
No,
So,
because if it happens or not happens, you don't know. It's kind of hard to tell the difference until we're still pushing it.
Run Docker pull in loop for an hour to pull it 101 times and to see if you get it throttled or something.
I understand that the OSS approval already happened, but again, I'll touch base with Linux Foundation, but I'm sure it will be handled.
That's what I was told that the approval happened. Lucy
Right.
even cut and paste the email on chat, but then it doesn't seem like it has actually happened yet.
Yeah, I think what it means is that we get basically a free paid account for Docker Hub. So it kind of
maybe
it
it
looks
doesn't
like
show
an enterprise account.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not enterprise support.
Oh wait, we'll do our own support.
Which is fine. I mean, that's not the that's not what we're
we
seeking
just
anyway.
need the bandwidth and the space. That's all we need.
Yeah. Well, let's hope they resolve that. Before we have to run a lot of integration tests. Or if we decided to pull all our libraries and external or our dependencies off of our own Docker, which is what Tal suggested, I guess, in this case, then we'll probably see a difference.
So in the agenda, Tal, I know you added a few things. We covered a couple of things. Did you cover? I just want to make sure that we covered everything you added.
Yeah, we talked about builda. I added another note about code scanning, but Rado covered it. I just wanted it to be here in part of the notes to remember.
Yeah, I added an issue for that too.
I think we should. Yeah, I know. We should probably even link it here, but I think it's in. This is. I don't think we can release Nefia without doing that properly. because we definitely don't want to release. For example, we don't know if somewhere deep in our intransitive dependencies, say we have GPL code, which is incompatible with Apache. And then our whole project is basically
Become GPL.
well, yeah, it becomes problematic. So it's something we need to check. I know those tools exist. I haven't really looked into them. Rado, you said you're looking into it. If you need any help, please let us know, and somebody will volunteer to look into it here too, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would say that's a blocker for an FEO R1 release, so it's high priority in my view.
Yeah, generally, I mean, understand in general, right? In a closed source program, it becomes extremely sensitive to this licenses, right? I mean, there are copyright, copyleft, all the kinds of GPL, all the way on the other side we have Apache to Rado. So in general, open source, one of the things that GPL mandates, right? Your code should also be open source. So I just wanted to understand, Tal, from your perspective. I think it's not in my understanding, it is not a major, it may not be a major issue for the project itself, in the sense that the project itself is open source, but for the consumers of it, it's going to be a big issue. I think that's what you're alluding to.
Yeah. I'm
Right.
saying that if our project has incompatible licenses, then you're actually not allowed to use it. Right? It's
Yeah.
yeah.
It's not the matter of openness, but rather than we'll be explicitly, as Tal said, explicitly violating terms of license, the GPL. And I mean, Earth won't stop turning around because of it, but for sure we will end up on some wall of shame projects.
Yeah, and we'll get a very angry email from RMS, which happened to me once. So,
really?
Yeah.
So that's one achievement. Really, I thought being banned from Facebook or Imager or something is something, but get angry email from RMS. that's something.
Yeah, well, I'll say it's not a feather in my cap, but basically anything you do using JavaScript is very difficult from a GPL perspective. But anyway, we're not doing that here. But yeah, the issue is, we want this to be a true release, of course, and internally we're understanding this as a proof of concept, as a step on the evolution, but we intend people to be able to use R1. And if we have license issues, then it's unusable.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Tal, for that.
Okay.
Thanks, Rado, as well.
Well, we are 1 minute to time, and 1 minute to time. And does anyone have anything else they want to discuss? If not, well, thank you. Right on time.
Cool. Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks, everybody. Have a nice rest of the